Travis Wayne Goodsell. I was born and raised in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Going on my 55th year. And I never expected that my church would be a criminal organization and want to murder me. Never saw that coming. So my parents kept us away from living in Utah. I was born in Berkeley, California. And then after Todd was born, Ford had their scandal, and there was an opening for my dad to fill in. And then there were more scandals, and my dad had to move to Southern California. As we spent the rest of my teen years, up until my teen years, there in California. And so I had dealings with white supremacist Christian nationalist peers, born-again Christians, who were being told about Mormonism information that I was not being told. Some of it I was. Not allowed to drink coffee. Yeah, that's word of wisdom. We all know that. But to pick on me for it, that was stupid. I don't like the smell of coffee, so there's no way in hell I'm drinking it, Mormon or not. But everybody kept telling me that the Book of Mormon is a fraud, that Joseph Smith was a fraud, except for the church that said they were true. But they weren't answering any questions. And so when I read the scriptures, and it tells me to liken the word unto a seed and produce the results, I'm smart enough to know that's a scientific process, to use science. And so when the Book of Mormon talks about Hebrew and Egyptian, those are sciences. We've got the Book of Abraham, that's Egyptian, that's science. So even though nobody would answer my questions, let alone answer anybody else's questions, as everybody says it's wrong. New York Times did a whole spread on it when the papyrus was found and given to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints rather than the Community of Christ. They said that it was a fraud. Joseph Smith is wrong. And so as a Mormon, I knew that all I needed to do was run the tests. But we didn't have Google search. I didn't have access to documents and files online. So, what to my wondering eyes do appear, that the life that I chose would lead me to getting all of the information needed. At Rick's College, I had a scripture study class, and this was our textbook in that class. So I thought I'd resurrect it from the dead. And so anything of the Bible times, they have in here. And for the most part, it's good, because it doesn't necessarily mean that the Bible is literal history. Of course, that's what Christians in this church would believe. But it does give you an accurate understanding of the type of clothing, dwelling, domestic activities, food and meals, the family, education, agriculture, collecting food, shepherding, craftsmen and traders, towns and villages, journeys and travels, hospitality, social and political groupings, Government and Society, Warfare, Leisure, Religion, Index, Scripture Index. So it does tie it to the Scriptures, because that's what they use as their template. So that when you read about the eye of a needle that a camel, it's easier for a camel to get through, it'll tell you and explain that for you. And from that class, I would eventually go on with the extra information that I would receive at the University of Lethbridge to do a scripture study manual. But the University of Lethbridge didn't accept any of my credits at Rick's. And so I had to redo my associate's education with what became 2 bachelors and a minor. And I learned how to learn with science, just as the Book of Mormon taught me. So I picked it up easily and would go on to decipher Paleo-Hebrew and find out the answer that I had been wondering. How did Joseph Smith render his translation of the biblical Hebrew text? I now know, and I've been sharing it with you on my YouTube videos, as well as other places, but YouTube is free. Don't want you paying for anything. That's what Russia never understood. They just wanted me to hand it over. If you want me to decipher your own script in Russian, just ask. I'll tell you. The one is the chiasmus. Not the chiasmus, the Cairo. Real simple, guys. Real simple. But nonetheless, I never believed that I would be hunted down, abused, tortured, attempted to be murdered because I had found out that Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon were true. And that these attackers were my own religious people. I don't get it. I still don't get it. I understand it. I know the historical background, why. They're Danites of the Illuminati. They're the enemy of mankind. They're the big terrorist group seeking to destroy the world and reign supreme over the ashes of everybody. But I don't get it. Evil is not logical. Evil is just full of hate. And so finding out last night about the church's secret spy organization that seeks to hurt people just because they have questions. Seriously, guys. You know, if you're going to tell people you're true, you can't punish them when they find out it's true. Kind of defeats the purpose of claiming you're true. And so I don't get that. I've been in their midst, and now I'm getting answers, and it's a worst case scenario. That my born-again Christian peers who said we worship Lucifer were right. You know how humiliating that is? So I just wanted Zion. I didn't want to be the guy. But nobody gave me answers, and I wanted those answers, and I wasn't going to let people tell me no. And I got the answers, and now I'm the guy. As I ran the test, just as everybody else should have run the test. And so it makes no sense for Mormons to hate me, for the church leaders to order through this strengthening church members committee to attack me through other Mormons. I'm in this apartment because of their abuse, as I explained in the video today. Even in Gail Miller's concentration camp of hell of human trafficking, I'm asked, are you a victim of abuse? The answer is yes. People are trying to murder me. People are hurting me. People are robbing me. Mormons, my fellow religion, are acting evil and criminal towards me. And when I tell them this, they prove it. They don't humble themselves and feel guilty for what they've done. They get all hard-hearted and stick up their necks at me and say I'm the enemy. I deserve it. I'm not the first cause. You are. And you're living in denial land to justify it. You know, even Joseph Smith, am I allowed to bring up my scriptures again this time? Yep. What is the wording? Persecution heaped upon him. Doomed to the necessity of obtaining a scanty maintenance for my daily labor. So yeah, I do relate to Joseph Smith, as I wanted to learn from him. I ended up becoming him. Though I was hated, reviled, reclaim me. That's a word. Men too have reclaimed me, yeah. Verse 28. 2 verses off when I started. During the space of time which intervened between the time I had the vision and the year 1823, having been forbidden to join any of the Christian religions of the day, and being of very tender years, and persecuted by those, it says any of the religious sects of the day, which would include all the others too that are not Christian. But nonetheless, and being persecuted by those who ought to have been my friends. People who claim to be my friend, When times got tough for me, or when the church came a-knocking, get 'em. It's like they flipped a switch, and they were no longer the same people I knew. And they go into hiding, they shun me, and they persecute me. For what? That Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon are true as Jewish. So I'm the enemy. I don't get it. You guys don't run the test. I do. So I'm the enemy. The church threatens you or your family, and so you commit crimes for the church. My own brother was threatened by the church. I know my brother. I grew up with him. And I know he's a dumbass, and he likewise betrayed me. When times got tough for me, he shunned me too. And he persecuted me along with everybody else. But I know him. I know why. It's because he's a dumbass. But still. Despite being valedictorian at BYU and high school, he doesn't understand how to learn. That's just Jeopardy memorization knowledge he has. He's not smart. He doesn't understand evil, even when he was persecuted as a boy growing up by his peers. The white supremacist Christian nationalist peers. He wasn't able to connect why they were evil towards him. He disassociated it. Because he doesn't know how to learn. And so for him to be threatened by his church too, but to commit crimes against his own brother, yeah, he's a dumbass, because it was for my birthday. And he didn't understand what the church was doing to him. He didn't see it and understand it as criminal behavior like the peers that he grew up being persecuted by. He had to pay $2,000 for a lawyer, all in vain, because all I had to do was point it out to the lawyer. Excuse me? He said, what? And you're not doing what? And they still didn't do anything against the church, who threatened him, forced him to give up $2,000. He was punished for his failure. All so that he would have a false accusation against me to silence me on YouTube and to financially hurt me beyond what I've already been hurt. And so not only my brother, but my fellow brethren are all ganging up against me. I've been here for almost 2 years now. And just like Gail Miller's concentration camp of hell of human trafficking, it's supposed to be a place where I'm to be protected from abuse. Because I told them when I first went in, yes, I'm a victim of abuse. And then they went and abused me. Here, yes, I'm a victim of abuse. And they gave me some documentation of who to contact. All in vain. None of them can help me. Because it's the people who run and operate this state of Utah. It's my own religion that are the one people who have ought to have been my friends and have treated me kindly. And if they suppose that I'm wrong, deluded, to have endeavored in a proper and an affectionate manner to have reclaimed me, not threatening me, not hurting me, not stealing from me, not trying to murder me. Every Mormon knows this. Every Mormon knows you can't be bad. Every Mormon knows you're supposed to love. And you don't. And that's the real tragedy in all of this. Is that Mormons are a fraud, not just the leaders of the church. You go on your missions and you're a fraud. You're all happy and smiley until they don't want to join or they want to leave. And you don't want to know the truth. Why, Mormons? Pollution. So really only Karen dedicating yet another temple. And in Florida, Tallahassee, despite the hurricane. You don't understand. This is not godly. None of this is. President Oaks' Christmas call to embrace all with Christ-like love. Did you actually listen to it? I gave you the clip Monday morning. Because he says something after that. Unless they don't agree with our standards and values. They will not put that there. Everything is a cover-up. Everything has to be hidden. And so people will just go to that and go, yay, church is true. They'll never have listened to it. And if they did, it went right in one ear and out the other. And they still have the Islamic lady wearing the symbol of her sexual abuse by her religion. Because the church has added some Islamic charities against Israel. But you don't understand this. You don't understand. I do. I found out we're Jewish. And that's why they're trying to murder me. They will not support the Jews. They will support Islam before supporting the Jews. They will support Christianity and the First Creed before they will support the Jews. They will support atheists, LGBTQ, before they will support the Jews. They have such a deep hatred. And that is passing down to you. Those men in that committee in the 70, they're at that level. At the base level Mormons just accept whatever they're told. We're Christian. Okay, Jesus. Yeah, I can't wait to see him. He has a body of flesh and bones. Church is true. We have a living prophet at the head. And so if you can convince the leaders that, yes, you are fully indoctrinated at this base level of illiteracy because you're unable to read and understand what you read, it's all about a spiritual witness feeling, then they test you to see if you can influence others into this con. And then if you can do that, then they'll elevate you further. Those who get to the 70 level are those who know this is a fraud. Or at least know that committing crimes is not a crime, because Jesus wants it. They know they're violating the law. They know that they're not loving people and trying to reclaim them. They can't. Because I get it straight from the texts. Because if they try to claim Christianity, they automatically lose. And so they cannot reclaim me. It is them who are refusing to be reclaimed, because they will not read. And so they do surface stuff. Well, name Jesus. So, that existed before the creation of Christianity, that said that the name of their Christ was going to be Jesus. They could have named him Samson. But they chose Jesus out of all the other names they could have chosen. The name is actually Emmanuel. They chose not to name him that. So, and then you got the Festival of Lights with the Mongolian ambassador. It was several days ago, if not last week. The Islamic one was a couple of weeks ago now. And so I don't understand the hatred against me. But the leaders know. At that level, you know you're a fraud. You're telling people you're seeing Jesus. And if they call you out on it, all they have to do is say spiritual witness. But we're not Trinity. Our Jesus is physical. And so, yeah, you got him again. That's why they cannot reclaim me if I'm deluded. Because I'm not. If you claim the Book of Mormon as literal history, then you have to use science, not a spiritual witness feeling. Duh, Christians figured that out with the First Creed. We're going to call the Bible literal history, but Jesus is not real, so everything is a spiritual witness feeling. So it's true automatically. And over 4 billion people believe the con. But Mormons can't. Mormons can't use a spiritual witness feeling because everything is physical. Everything is literal history. And so you have to use science. So you can't say that Joseph Smith founded the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because he didn't. The name of the church was the Church of Christ. And then in 1834, he changed the name to the Church of the Latter-day Saints. But it wasn't him. It was a full unanimous vote by those in that meeting. It's in the Joseph Smith papers. And so, Joseph Smith history of 1838. He keeps the same name, Church of the Latter-day Saints. Willard Richards put in Jesus after Joseph is dead. It got published in the Times and Seasons. It's in our Joseph Smith papers, unless the church deleted it along with the 1830 Book of Mormon. Nothing in this church is true by claiming Christianity. Nothing. And therefore, everything they do is a lie. Everything they do is a crime. Everything they do is a deception. They know I'm a threat to them. That's why they're trying to murder me. They know they do not have legitimate claim to anything of Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon. They've used them to get money, to criminalize you, so that you then have to obey them to commit crimes against others. And you say, so? I don't get it. I don't get it. You know, I would hope that they would never reach out to the owners of this building or the property management or whoever, because most likely they're Mormon, and if they find out, the committee will do the same thing as they've done to me before. And then one day you'll never hear from me again. Just understand, I tried to see something and say something. I reached out to my government, the federal government. I've reached out to the state government. I've reached out to the chief of police, even recently. So if I disappear, know that Chief of Police Mike Brown was warned. I gave him the tip. If I disappear, you never hear from me again. Understand that the owners of this property are likely Mormon, and were threatened by that committee under orders of the First Presidency and the corporate board to reach out and get me. Understand that if my channel disappears, it's because the Mormon employee was ordered by the committee, by the corporate board and the First Presidency to do so. Understand that I was in your midst. Mormons would give their lives to protect the real Jesus, even though he shouldn't need it. They'd be like Peter, chopping off ears of people. But when the Jewish Christ comes along, yeah, they fulfill prophecy of what the Jews, now literal history, did to Jesus, the Christian Christ. They murdered him. And Mormons don't see it. They don't see it. All you had to do was run the test. I never wanted to be the guy. But I'm the only one who knows the information to warn you, to free you, to save you. And you want me dead. How bleeped up is that?